Hi everybody, Justin here. This week we've included a special post-show treat for you, an episode of our Patreon-exclusive spin-off show, Classic Corner. If you enjoy it and want more content like it, be sure to check out our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/retrowarriors. Enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 74.
Woo!
As always, I'm your stinky host, Justin Baker.
Why are you stinky?
And as always, I'm joined by my stinky co-host, resident old bastard Chris Saturn.
I'm not necessarily stinky, but I certainly forgot to shave.
Because it's our Earthbound episode. Everything
that's
stinks.
true. Yeah,
It
everything
stinks. Oh,
Just
now
ask Jay Sherman. Everything stinks.
I was about to say, I wish we had a soundboard now. Because we could just drop, it stinks in there every 10 minutes.
I've got the DVDs in the other room. I can just go get those real quick.
Yeah, we'll just hold the DVD up every time we say it. It stinks.
It stinks. Hachi machi.
Well, this is an episode I'm very excited about, and I'm trying not to gush because I did have some other things. But this is our Earthbound episode.
Yeah.
I am super duper stoked on it.
Yeah. I've heard of this Earthbound game.
I don't think I have much else this week, so let me see what I had going on.
Did you get around to playing any of the Kirby games you talked about playing last week?
No.
Okay.
No, was trying to speed through Earthbound as fast as humanly possible.
Yeah.
There were a couple of news items I did want to talk about, and then I had a story that was tragic, and then happy, and then semi-tragic after that. So, in the news, Majesco is merging with a larger electronics conglomerate and is effectively going away, so that's sad.
Poor Majesco.
Or Majesco, who did all the Genesis reprints, I think?
Yeah, they did. They did actually a lot of Super Nintendo ones too. They reprinted a lot of Super NES and Genesis games late in the lives of those systems. They published Frogger on Super NES and Genesis. They were still publishing games up through at least the GameCube era. I want to say through the PS3 360 era.
I feel like they've been doing. I feel like I saw them on a bunch of 3DS titles or something. But
they
I don't.
published Blood Rain. That was one of their games. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Which would eventually be brought to the silver screen by Uwe Boll.
Yeah.
Which was just
thanks.
Majesco, you're partially to blame for that. So maybe that's why they chose to go out of business. Maybe that's what happened. So that's just a thing that happened. Only other news that excited me, and this is a weird one. Former SNK staffers are bringing a new fighter to the Super Nintendo. This was picked up by a bunch of news outlets. I read it on Nintendo Life.
Yeah.
It's a game called Unholy Knight, the Darkness Hunter.
Well, that sounds like the most badass name ever. Are these former SNK staffers also 17-year-old goth kids?
You would think that by the character designs. They worked on Kizuna Encounter, King of Fighters 2002, 2001, 98, which those were the best King of Fighters in case you weren't up on your King of Fighters. Anybody at home, go Google it. Here's the character art. It's about as anime fan servicey as it gets.
That's like Guilty Gear meets Bishonen
meets porn.
Yeah.
But this is where it gets interesting. They're releasing it on Super Nintendo.
That is weird.
It's a Super Nintendo game. So I don't even know how to feel. It's an SNK fighter on Super Nintendo, so I'm excited.
Right.
But I don't...
I don't know how excited I am because I've played some other SNK fighters on the Super Nintendo.
But they did the good ones. They did King of Fighters 98 Saturn.
You know what? I played some other SNK fighters on the Super Nintendo. They didn't transition very well.
Yeah, I feel like Super Nintendo's a bad choice. They could have put it on the Saturn.
Saturn would have been good. The Dreamcast would have been fine.
I was gonna say but there's such a bigger market on the Super Nintendo, and then I was like, honestly, how big are any of the markets for new in-box games for any of those consoles?
Seriously.
But it was just I was like, really? I might buy that if I could figure out how, because it's being made by a Chinese company and there's effectively no way for me to purchase it.
Right, yeah.
So last week you gave me Erotica Gamester.
Yes.
Which listeners and viewers may know, I did a YouTube video about the Radica Gamester,
which you could find on our Facebook.
Yes, on our Facebook and our YouTube. But it is a contraption that lets you plug in 3 Game Boy Advance cartridges simultaneously and flip between them.
I always called it the Game Boy Jukebox.
That's a great way to think about it.
Yes.
And so I did the video.
It does not work with Game Boy or Game Boy Color cartridges.
Does it not?
No.
Bummer.
Even though it plugs into the GBA, which does work with Game Boy and Game Boy Color cartridges.
It would look like a weird shuriken if it did, though, so I can't imagine. Because you'd have to hold it really far away because your hand,
right?
I don't know.
But I had tried it once, and no, it refuses to acknowledge that card is there.
Well, I had this bright idea where I was like, I'll plug in Final Fantasy Dawn of Souls, Final Fantasy IV, and Final Fantasy V at the same time.
Which is probably exactly what I did with it back in the day.
Then I can have 900 hours of Final Fantasy in my system at once, and it excited me.
And it will only add 2 pounds to the system.
And I actually like the ergonomics of it.
Yeah.
Because I have big hands and just
it gives you a slightly bigger
SP
grip
kinda,
on SP.
I feel like I'm holding like a hockey puck. So I did the video and I played around with it and I played some games for a few minutes and I was like, all right, that's cool. And then I was, handling my Final Fantasy V cartridge and I was like, well, it's the holidays, so traditionally what I'll do is put in 5 more hours of Final Fantasy V and then forget about it again until next year. And I put it in my, in the Gamester and I fired the game up and all of my saves are corrupted. Every single one of them.
Yeah, I don't recall ever having that problem with it. But
and here's what happens whenever your saves are corrupted on a GBA Final Fantasy game. It doesn't only go, hey, your save's corrupt. It goes, your save is corrupt. Press A to delete it. So it corrupted my saves, and then it made me delete them one by one.
Yeah.
Like I was killing my own children.
Yeah.
It just lined them up and let me delete them.
On all of the NES Dragon Quest games, well, the American ones anyway, if your save file gets corrupted, as soon as you get to the save file selection screen, it does a
oh, that's a vacuum cleaner. I was like, I thought that was my computer, and I was like, oh my god, my computer's gonna go into space.
Yeah, it's taking off right
Saturn,
now.
Hold on a minute.
Should we wait?
No, it's fine, guys.
All right, it won't pick up.
Fine. No,
okay.
Well, I mean, it might. I don't know. Listeners at home, ignore the vacuum. I think it's already done.
Yeah, it's done now. Anyway, so the NES Dragon Quest games, they on the character load screen or on the file load screen, if it detected a corrupted save, it would play the noise that it plays when you get cursed in the game and tell you your save file is corrupted, and then it would just blank away. All your save file would just be gone. And so that was just that was the dread every time I would load up the game after it happened the first time. As soon as I hit the button to go to the file select screen, I would wait for that noise.
There'd be a second where
where my heart would skip for a second, waiting to see if my 80 hours of Dragon Quest had been deleted since the last time I played. Because I think it happened at least once with every NES Dragon Quest cart that I have.
Really?
Yeah.
Man. Well, that was the tragic part. And then I thought, oh, wait. If I've ever played this on my Retron, I've got a save state.
All right.
So I plugged into my Retron, and I have a save state.
Nice.
I'm like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
So I immediately save it back to the cartridge, and then I already have it in my Retron, so I'm like, well, I'll play in my Retron for a bit.
Yeah.
And I put in probably a good couple hours, and I get a couple more tablets, and I think I either got close to or finished getting all the legendary weapons.
Nice.
And then I put it back in my Game Boy.
Yeah.
And it lost those hours I played that day and was back at the original save. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. It didn't save back to my cart because I say after I finish playing on my Retron, I save it back to my cart and I go to put it in my Game Boy. So I'm like, all right, I'll put it back in my Retron and save it again. I put it back in my Retron. The Retron reads the save file off the Game Boy and then overwrites that version on my Retron.
I wonder if you'd accidentally hit copy from cart to Retron when you were trying to copy from Retron to cart.
I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of that happened.
That's so tragic.
But so in one day I lost 70 hours of gameplay all told. I mean, and I ended up getting it back. So really all I had to do was play those couple hours again, which I did immediately.
Sure.
And but it was a harrowing adventure. It was
That's rough.
Thanks, Radica.
Yeah.
Gall. And honestly, I don't even blame the Gamester because in the video and prepping for the video, I was testing it, so I had 3 games in with cumulative hundreds of hours of gameplay in them, and I was flipping the switch back and forth and flipping it off and on. You probably shouldn't do that.
Right.
It's probably not a good idea to begin with.
Yeah.
So maybe it was kind of my fault.
Yeah.
But other than that, I just played a bunch of Final Fantasy V. And I this is going to come up later, but it's weird playing older games that don't have these nice quality of life improvements. Things like exiting dungeons where you have to walk back through them.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in Final Fantasy V, because I'm like, these dungeons are a bitch.
Well, you can get the exit spell.
Right, but I don't have it.
Yeah.
And then I did use my Retron, and I did max PP, or sorry, not
MP.
PP. APB, max job points after each battle, and I maxed out the jobs I wanted and learned every spell with my Retron, then saved that back to my card.
There you go.
So now it doesn't even look like I cheated, except the fact that I have every single spell in the game.
Yeah, that doesn't look like cheating at all.
What maniac could achieve that in Final Fantasy V?
You're 11 hours into the game and have maxed out everything. That's totally normal.
I think I ended up sitting, I'm right about 70 hours now.
Damn.
So I'll probably go back to it.
Yeah, 50 is one of those ones that always feels like a drag.
You mean 5?
Yeah, sorry. Okay. 5.
I was like, 50!
Yeah.
And then versus 50.
No,
52.
Now, I've been playing 15, and it actually has an option in its menu. You don't have to, learn a spell or anything. It's just exit dungeon. And it'll just warp you back to the beginning of the dungeon. And then there's another option anywhere on the world map of warp back to your car or warp back to the last place you saved. And you can just do that whenever the hell you want. And there's no penalty. It's just, boom, you're back.
Right.
Now, granted, there's 3 minutes of load screens every time you do that. But yeah, going back and playing something older than that after that is painful.
I like 5. I like the job system ones, and I know I'm in the minority, which, I mean, I don't think anyone hates either or.
No, 5 is actually the fan favorite in Japan.
Yeah.
It's also Sakaguchi's favorite.
5 and 3, 5 on GBA and 3 on DS are 2 of my favorite Final Fantasy games. They're both phenomenal games.
Yeah, and Tactics 1. I lump those 3 together as the job system Final
Not
Fantasies.
a fan of Tactics, but I will always say it's because I played the PSP port of Tactics Ogre first.
Oh, yeah.
And that is such a far and away superior game.
Yeah, the Super NES version of Tactics Ogre is pretty much the same game, but not as clean.
Yeah.
Without those quality of life things.
Anyway, what did you have? I didn't know before we...
Yeah, I played some more Mega Man on my 3DS.
Some more Mega Man?
Some more Mega Man 2.0. I started playing Lagoon on my Super Nintendo because I was really bored and wanted to play Lagoon.
Bahamut Lagoon?
No, Lagoon. Lagoon, the bad one. I hadn't played it since... I first got I got it as a gift for my birthday in 93. And it wasn't good then.
Yeah.
It's still not good now. Only now it's not good plus old.
You just had nothing else to do. Is that what it was?
I just wanted to remember why I liked it. And
turns out you just never liked it, so that was
I
the
think
problem.
it was Stockholm syndrome. But no, that's I did test out my PC Engine emulator with my Xbox One controller.
Nice. How was that?
I really like the D-pad in the new Xbox One controller.
Really?
Highly recommend the new model, the new Bluetooth Xbox One controller for anybody looking for something decent for an emulator. Not the best controller you can get,
right?
But as far as readily available and works well, yeah, it's good. Like it.
Well, let's dig into the meat and potatoes, as it were. I do want to start with the new Legends of Localization book. I don't know how far you've gotten into this.
I am at the point just after Foresight.
Now, if Clyde Manolin decides to keep doing yearly books, I imagine we'll keep doing annual episodes about his books, because we did one last year on the Zelda book that came out. But for the uninformed, it's effectively... I don't even know how to describe it. It's a historical manual about the translation process of a specific game.
Yeah, it's not an actual walkthrough by any means.
No.
It would be useless. It would be mildly useful as a walkthrough.
Yeah.
Because there's enough that is missing that you would not make it through.
Right.
And it is not a full documentary about the game because it skips a lot of the development of the game.
Yeah, it's explicitly
about the localization.
Every single word of text.
But it's also about the cultural differences that led to the localization.
Which, for games like Earthbound, is much more significant than games like Zelda.
Yeah, like there was a couple of things with Zelda where it helped to know about Japanese culture or U.S. culture of 1989. But with Earthbound, there's a lot that goes into it.
Now, I do want to start and talk about the physical book itself. The previous book was very, very good. I knew this one was going to be at least twice the size, I think it is.
Give or take. My Zelda book's up there if we want to compare them.
Yeah, I think this one's 400 and something pages. The Zelda book is 280, I know, because I just checked it. This one clocks in at almost 450.
Yeah.
So this is a huge flipping book.
Yeah, it is a tome.
And it is so nice.
Yeah, it is very well made. It is beautiful.
Very heavyweight pages. If I had to lodge one complaint against the physical construction of this book, it would be that they didn't spring for the lay flat spine.
It's fair.
It is a little unwieldy to be reading because it's so massive. But that probably would have hiked the price up $10 more because those things are, God only knows how expensive.
Which really, to get a book this size of this condition for the price that they're charging,
for $36, that's insane. I mean, I've bought college textbooks that are
half that size.
Yeah,
for
and half
10
the
times
quality.
the cost.
Yeah, but what's also exciting about this one is layout-wise, it's kind of the same deal, but there are these sections where the page decoration changes.
Yeah, like Saturn Valley and Moonside.
And it's very cute. Actually, I haven't seen the Saturn Valley one. This is super duper. Oh my God,
adorable.
This is so cute. But he added that in there. I'm honestly shocked that he was able to keep the price at $36. That's insane. But so far, I'm truly enjoying it. As you can see, I'm very early in the book.
Oh, yeah.
What I do also like about it, and I went back and listened to our Legends of Localization episode last year, was my complaint with Zelda was that it was kind of dry. In this one, I haven't gotten to the hard translation parts yet, but it eases you into it so well.
Yeah.
That by the time you get there, you're just so interested that you just can't stand it. You know, like
also, I think his passion for Earthbound really comes through.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because
which isn't to say he's not passionate about Zelda, but Earthbound is what
that's
made his career.
Yeah, it's been an important part of his online presence for quite some time.
Maybe not his career, but his. I mean, it's very clearly a part of his life, a big part of his life.
And he explains at the front of the book that it very likely led to his current career.
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely. But it has a lot of really interesting tidbits, especially things about Ape, which is still on the screen, the title screens for Smash Brothers, but hasn't been a company for a number of years.
What is left of it eventually became, if I'm remembering everything right, it became Brownie Brown, which Brownie Brown, what is left of Brownie Brown became 1UP Studio, which is still a part of Nintendo.
Right.
Brownie Brown credited with the creation of Mother 3 versus Mother 1 and 2.
Right. But I really do wish I had had more time. I spent all of my time finishing Earthbound, and I wish I'd had more time to spend with the book.
Yeah.
But just the amount of graphics and information and, like you said, clear passion and love for this project really, really shines through.
And plus, he has some interviews with, or at least some supplemental material with Mark Lindblom, who is the original translator from Nintendo.
He did the forward.
He did the forward for the book. There also seems to be some insight and information from Itoi himself.
Yeah.
So the amount of detail and cooperation he's gotten in the book.
And that's the part that really strikes me, and that's honestly the part that strikes me about the Earthbound community, is the amount of cooperation. The amount of people that are willing to come out and say, oh yeah, I worked on this, or I worked on that, and I'll do an interview. I mean, you don't see that in video games.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah, I actually read online this week, and this is non-verified, but somebody had claimed that the reason why Nintendo, who is known for for meticulously tracking all of their copyrights.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why they supposedly haven't gone after the Mother 3 fan translation, despite going after AM2R and everything else, is because E2E still owns much of the copyright over the Mother franchise, and he personally won't authorize them to go after the Mother 3 fan translation.
That which wouldn't shock me at all.
No, not at all.
You know,
he has acknowledged it many times, and he says he's a fan of it. So
yeah, I mean, why not?
Right.
You know, I think it's also an instance where he's not a company.
Right.
You know, and whenever you're looking at it from the perspective of an individual, I don't think there's any one individual at Nintendo that's like, oh yeah, we got to get rid of that.
Right.
It's just this thing where it's like, well,
legally, it's
corporate
smart
world,
to do so.
Legally, it's a good idea to protect our copyrights. It's in our company's best interest. Right. You know, I think a committee would decide that, but I don't think there's a single person at the company that's like, oh, we got to get those guys. Yeah. You know, so I don't know what else you have about the book, because I don't have much. Like I said, I'm not super far into it yet.
I'm about halfway through. I found one.
God, halfway?
Yeah. I'm like page 200-ish.
Yeah,
give or take, a little after. So I found one picture that was misattributed. It was attributed to the wrong game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I emailed Tomato to let him know.
In all caps with exclamation points.
No, I was,
you idiot!
And then a picture of a tomato with a knife in it. No.
But I took myself. I spent hours stabbing tomatoes to get the right shot.
No, I sent him an email and was like, I don't want to be the dick that points it out, but this is incorrect. You guys might want to catch it on the next reprint. Mm-hmm. And within like half a day, he replied to be like, oh crap, you're right. I'm looking at that right now. You're right. I'll fix it. Next printing will be fine. Mm-hmm. So there may be a correction in the next print of the book, should it get there.
And then he has to attribute it to you that you corrected it. Otherwise, you're gonna have to send him a note.
Yeah, and then I'll send him another picture of a tomato with a knife in it.
Listen, tomato. But how are you enjoying it as a huge Earthbound fan, and as someone who probably knows half the shit that's already in the book?
Well, if I know half the shit in the book, it's because I've read through his website. so any of the corrections that I see in there are just him correcting himself, and I'm like, oh, that's fascinating.
I do love that he seems to embrace his early incomplete knowledge of the game.
Right.
You know, he seems to embrace the journey that brought him to his sophisticated understanding of the game now.
And as somebody who has been a big Earthbound fan for that whole time and has watched fan sites go from that early level of we don't know what this is to where they are now, where we have micro-analyzed every snippet of text in every possible language.
Right.
It is nice to see that he acknowledges those early days where pretty much the fan community as a whole were idiots about it. We had no idea what we were looking at.
Not idiots, but ignorant. People just didn't know.
Right.
You know?
There was no way to know.
I mean, he's got shots of his website from back in the day.
Right.
And it's hilarious to look at. And as someone who has earlier work, I'm so embarrassed by this stuff. And I'm like, no, I didn't know. I just started podcasting yesterday. What are you talking about? You know? So it's really nice to see someone that can embrace their work and share it with the community and share that it is a journey to get where he is and to get where the book is. You know, it's not a thing that, oh, I guess I'll research this for a year.
Right.
Like this has been a decade coming at least.
2 decades coming. Yeah. Because, Earthbound released in America 21 years ago.
Jesus.
That makes me feel so old right now.
Yeah.
I still have my box right here.
I was in first grade.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I have on Legends of Localization. Even the little bit that I've gotten through, highly, highly recommended book. And it's going to... I definitely have had a weird journey with Earthbound, and we'll dig into it more, but... When I ordered the book, I was like, I guess I'll get it. Earthbound's cool, I guess. And then in the last week, I finished the game, and now I'm like, this is awesome. I'm so excited for this book. Like, after getting the book, I became a fan of Earthbound,
because you've tried to play Earthbound several times now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll admit, as a fan, as somebody who's been playing it for 21 years now, the front half of the game can be a slog.
It's hard, man.
It
Those
can be
first
rough.
4 melodies.
Oh, yeah. And, really getting past, I would say through Moonside it can be rough.
Yeah.
Once you get past that, the last half of the game feels more like a downward slope. Like it's going faster, everything snowballs real quick.
Well, let's dig into the game proper because God knows we're going to have enough material for the show. But
and we've discussed this game before.
Yeah, we do have an old episode of an old podcast we used to do, and maybe I'll include some snippets of it or something for funsies if I feel like it when I'm editing.
Or we could give it to the Patreon backers.
Oh, we could. That's a great idea. Oh, look at you with your great ideas.
Sneaky.
Because I already have it. So yeah, Patreon backers, look forward to our old Earthbound episode.
Yeah. We were all younger and dumber then.
Yeah, God, that was like 4 years ago.
That was I had just started at my current job then. Yeah.
Anyway, Earthbound came out in 1995. It is the English version of Mother 2. It did not do well.
It did okay.
Did it?
Yeah, it did okay.
Everyone's like, oh, that game bombed.
Well, the thing is that it undersold their expectation.
Right.
But it didn't do as bad as a lot of people claim it did. Now, there were still plenty of copies out there because Nintendo published a fuck ton of copies.
Yeah.
Nintendo thought it was going to be a Donkey Kong Country style success.
Right. Well, and then in Legends of Localization, he alludes to the fact that because it is a non-standard box size, because it comes with the full-size guide in the box, it was harder to even see it retail because it couldn't go on the normal shelf.
Yeah, they had most places that I saw, they would either have it like at the bottom underneath all the shelves, or they would have it behind the counter on top of something. Right. And so you had to know to look for it. Like sometimes I know that like Blockbuster and I think it was Software, etc., had little display boxes that were the sizes of regular Super Nintendo boxes. Yeah. That they could put in line with everything else. And those go for a ton of money on eBay now. Of course they do. Like everything else related to Earthbound.
Of course they do.
But no, they were standard Super NES boxes published by Nintendo that just said for display only and mentioned the guide still, but did not fit the guide in it. Right. But for the most part, yeah, they were. And I remember as the game started to fade away, as stores started to try to get rid of it, and they were clearancing it out for $40 or $50.
Right. Which is down. It was a
$79 game initially. Yeah. My copy still had its original price tag on it till like 3 years ago, and somebody tried to peel it off and rip the front of my box up.
Why?
Because they hate me.
What?
So
is that person buried under the floorboards right now?
Yeah, they're underneath this house. No.
If you listen closely when I play Earthbound, you can hear their still beating heart.
It's the beating of that hideous heart. No, there was originally 79. It cleared out to like 40 or 50, and I remember it being in bins, just like a full size, fully sealed box of Earthbound with everything in it.
Just
like
in
they weren't gutting it out. They would just throw it in a bin.
VHS copies of Trains, Planes, and Automobiles.
No, it'd be like that and some shitty NES controllers, and some like Doc's brand NES controllers, and a Genesis cleaning kit and Earthbound.
Yeah.
And that was like during the early to mid PS1 era that you would see that just in stores.
Right. Now a clean box copy goes for what, $250,
$300 or more. I've seen them go for more.
My God.
Actually, Clyde Mandolin keeps a website running called How to Buy Earthbound, and it will tell you the most cost-effective ways to do it, and it charts the current price on all the markets.
Basically, when you go there now, it just says buy it on Virtual Console.
Pretty
really
much.
Big at the
yeah,
top.
That's the recommendation. If you have a Wii U or a new 3DS, that's the way you should go.
New 3DS too. Well, let's talk history because I do want to. Because certainly, Earthbound's been a very big part of your life as well.
Yeah,
it's definitely a really important game to you.
Yeah.
So I would like to hear your first encounters with it and how it became that.
I heard about it last year. No,
yeah, I started writing this book about it.
Yeah.
I never heard about the game, but I got it at a Babbage's for $40 in a bin next to some Genesis cleaning kits.
Right. No, I'd originally. I remember following the hype in Nintendo Power.
Right, because they did push it hard.
Years of hype.
Yeah.
I remember originally seeing the screenshots of Mother 1 in Nintendo Power, and it was called Earthbound.
Because they were intending to bring that here. It's translated. I mean,
it's
they
fully
did
translated.
Wii U, but
finally.
Yeah.
Fucking 30 years later. But no, they'd put in some effort already to translate it for NES. and they started advertising it in the Pack Watch and Nintendo Power.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hyped because I was already a fan of Dragon Warrior and Final Fantasy.
Right.
And the idea of an RPG but set in a modern-like world was really exciting to me.
So you were also a big Star Tropics fan already at the time.
Yeah,
Did
absolutely.
it feel Star Tropics-y to you? Because it seems... I mean, I can see parallels.
I can get that vibe, but at the time it felt more like... Because they were advertising it as Dragon Warrior in America.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
a weird way to...
Yeah.
That implies that Dragon Warrior takes place in Japan.
Yeah.
Which it does not.
No,
It takes place in an imaginary fake place.
Dragon Warrior is medieval Europe.
Yeah,
You know,
that makes no sense.
Whereas Earthbound is America. It's faux America.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was... That's how it was pushed anyway. And that's kind of how it plays, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I was super stoked for it, and it kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And by the time it finally released, it was expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It was in a giant box, and so obviously we couldn't afford to just run out and get a copy.
Right.
And so the little video store near our house, little Payless Video, they had a copy, and they just got a retail copy of it. They didn't get some fancy box from Nintendo that they could put on their shelf.
Right.
So they just had to buy it. So every video rental store had the shelves of games, and they just had Earthbound kind of sitting on the top because it couldn't fit anywhere else. And so its little tag that you could take to the counter to rent it was just like chilling away from all the other games, which brought attention to it.
Right.
So it was the first game that you'd see because it'd be the giant one on top of all the others, sitting next to Mario Paint, which was in the same size box. So that also grabbed attention, so we rented it immediately.
Right.
And we erased the previous save file where the character was named Pussy. Because Super Nintendo.
Of course he was named Pussy.
Yeah, he was named Pussy, and Paula, if I remember right, was named, like, Cox. Because...
I don't think those people were the target
No,
audience
I don't think
for
they were the
Earthbound.
target audience for Earthbound.
For this cute, quirky
Right?
game. We'll name her Pussy.
Though, I gotta say, all my friends back in high school who were big Earthbound fans always named their favorite food Pussy. That way, when they'd go back home, your mom would say, "Why don't you eat some pussy and go to bed?"
Damn it.
So, that's just me corrupting this innocent, charming game. Anyway, so yeah, we rented it, and I think I played about half the way through it, and I was just super bummed when I had to return it, and I really wanted to get back at it, and I ended up getting it for my birthday that year, and I got the full box and everything, and I have since tore through 3 of the strategy guides.
Yeah, whenever I got the game on Wii U Virtual Console, you lent it to me, and you brought it over, and I was like...
I brought you one of my strategy guides.
Yeah, you were like, here, use this. And I was like, this is like disintegrating.
Yes.
So every time I use it, I'm
actively
like...
dissolving in your hand.
I'm like taking it apart like an archaeologist. I'm like, oh, that's the information I need. Thank you. It's just held together by like scotch tape and smoke.
Yeah. I did live in a house full of smokers. So yeah, I've gone through 3 of those guides. I just recently got a new one for $90. So
I was about to say the guides themselves go for upwards of $100.
Oh yeah,
gosh.
Yeah, I got one through the game sale subreddit for $90. That
Which
looks like it's in mint condition.
Which for people interested, there is a new guide on Fangamer. So if you're looking for one that's more like $30,
almost buying it.
I'm a bad influence because I want to push you into it so that I can see it, but then I don't want to buy it.
I know, right? I keep almost buying it. I'm like, how many Earthbound guides do I need?
Right.
But
4 apparently.
Yes, 4 is the number. But no, so I and there are some misprints in the original Nintendo Power guide.
Well, the ones that I noticed were usually items.
Yeah.
The items were wrong.
Yeah, and some enemies are excluded altogether. Others are misnamed.
Well, the enemies, I honestly ended up using the online guide on my Wii U gamepad more than your guide because I have a child.
One, it's not falling apart.
Yeah, I have a child on Animals too. I was like, Harper's going to grab it and rip the cover off. I'm going to have a $40 aneurysm. The enemies are placed weird anyway,
Yeah.
because usually the enemies are a few pages like after.
Yeah, some of them are after, some of them are before.
So I'm like, I'm not going to flip through 5 pages of a PDF to find the enemy. I'll just figure out how to fight this guy.
Yeah. So and there's just some typos and shit in there.
Yeah.
And I think there's a map that they forgot to include. So it's nice to have, and it was very, very useful for a playthrough. I'm sure you just discovered that.
Oh yeah,
but.
Yeah.
It's not perfect by any means.
But I mean, it's. I would say it's vital because, and maybe we'll get into this. Is some of the design of the game is that it is very opaque in some segments, which I guess is intentional. But I don't want to start off on a negative note because I thoroughly enjoyed the game and I absolutely loved the aesthetic and I loved the characters and I loved the story.
Yeah.
I loved the whole thing.
Right.
I really did. But the game feels a little the world feels small and restrictive in a lot of ways, and it's not the kind of game where I would want to spend much time wandering about,
right?
Because
there's
the
not
things
much to find.
Yeah, the things that you're supposed to do are very specific.
Yeah.
So wandering to find stuff like I couldn't imagine someone playing it for the first time without a guide. Like, I just can't imagine.
I think that's
happening.
by design because most of the complaints that I've heard about Mother 1 are just how giant and sprawling the world is with so few things to do in it.
Right.
So you can easily get lost in the world of Mother 1. Whereas Mother 2 is a little more refined and narrow. Outside of the first town, the rest of the game feels much more shoehorned.
Yeah. I mean, the towns themselves are... they're kind of big and you walk around them, but it's a town. I mean, whatever. It could be also just a menu and serve the same purpose. Yeah. But outside of towns, everything is basically corridors.
There's not too much outside of towns. Most of the towns butt up against each other, or you just take a boat or something.
Right.
And so you see very little of the world outside of the towns, except for maybe the desert.
Yeah. But so because of that, I do think the guide is absolutely vital. I'm glad that both the English and the Japanese versions came with a guide because
the Japanese one didn't come with a guide.
Did it not?
No, it came with a small manual.
Oh, because you had to buy it separately, but they still had a guide.
There was like 12 guides available, but you had to buy them separately.
I feel bad for those people then.
Yeah. Well, you have to remember, the people of Japan were so used to JRPGs by that point that it had to have seemed like because compared to like some of the obtuse, obscure NES JRPGs that didn't come out over here, Mother 2 is pretty easy in comparison.
The glut of weird Famicom shit that happens.
That's what I'm saying, man. All those weird third-party FDS RPGs that we had the good fortune of never seeing here.
Yep. What I did enjoy about the game, and I spend a lot of time overanalyzing things and thinking about things, and we haven't talked about him, but Itoi himself is hard for Americans to understand.
Yeah, because he is a very odd personality.
And he became famous through the copywriting boom in Japan. And the phrase copywriting boom sounds like the most boring shit any American has ever heard. Copywriting boom?
Yeah, and then if you can wrap your head around that, then he was famous for having a TV documentary where he dug for gold.
Right.
And a show where he went out and tried to catch bass.
He does weird stuff.
He's a very odd public figure in Japan.
I don't want to draw parallels between the two people at all, but an easy way, the way I always think about him is like Russell Brand.
Yeah.
Who's a guy that got famous on the radio in the UK and now he's in the US and he did stand up and then now sometimes he's in movies. He just kind of has a weird eclectic mix of stuff that he's done.
For people who know old culture, he is kind of like a Milton Berle character.
Yeah.
Where he got famous for one thing and then just did all these things that were not related and would never leave the public eye.
Right. So he's definitely a strange bird, to say the least. But basically, Earthbound is a Japanese guy's interpretation of a child's life in America through the lens of a Japanese game genre.
Yes.
And because of that, and this is one of my favorite parts about the game, it has, at first I kept thinking about how creepy this game feels. This game is so creepy.
Yeah.
Like it's charming and then all of a sudden it's creepy.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I realized that it's not creepy, it's uncanny.
Yes.
Things are kind of like they are in real life,
Yes.
but then they're twisted in these weird
Right.
ways that make them unsettling.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating to me,
And
those
there-
moments.
Yeah, and there's been that long-standing, disproven, quasi-proven, completely disproven rumor about the boss in Earthbound
Mm-hmm.
and about Itui's influence on that. What in the horror movie that he apparently walked in on a possibly a rape scene, but then not that rape scene, and then not really any scene that influenced the movie. So there's definitely some darker things in there.
Oh yeah.
But they're surrounded by so much quirky, light-hearted, charming things that they come off as possibly more unnerving than dark.
Yeah, well, sometimes it flips back and forth so fast
Yeah.
that even the quirky, lighthearted things
Yeah.
are like, this is weird. This
Yeah.
is so weird.
Yeah.
And that's the only word I could think to keep explaining was this game is so damn
Yes.
weird.
Yes.
But that's I think that's what I enjoyed about it so much is that the game works, and this may be an unpopular opinion, I don't know. But to me, the game works in spite of itself.
Yeah.
In spite of its weird, kind of corridor-like design, in spite of its relatively archaic systems that it has, that there are certainly some nice quality of life improvements,
Sure.
like auto battling
Yes.
and enemies that run away from you whenever
Yeah.
they're too low level, or if you've just beat the dungeon.
Right.
The scrolling health bars are a lot of fun
Yes.
because you can play around with timing.
Right.
And it makes combat still engaging all the way through to the
And
end.
one of my favorite things about it is one-handed play.
Which I didn't get to experience
Oh.
because I was playing on a Wii U gamepad.
Oh yeah, that's completely useless there.
So the select button is on the right side of the
That's
controller.
completely useless.
Yeah.
If only you had like some way to connect a Super NES controller through a Wiimote. Then
I
you
do.
could've- Oh,
Yeah.
You could have done that.
Yeah, I just don't.
Okay.
I was lazy.
Yeah.
I played most of the game on the gamepad too, like not even on the TV. So
Right.
and the whole time I was like, I should download it on 3DS. And I was like, no, I can't do the first part again.
Right,
I'm never
yeah,
gonna make it through it.
That's fine.
One thing that frustrated it was weird. It was frustrating and it was charming at the same time. And I was talking to you about it. Is that because everything in the game is like the status effects you get. The weirdest things, feeling weird and mushrooms and
Yeah.
crying and tiny little ghosts.
And you message me and you're like, how come Ness doesn't attack sometimes?
Yeah. And I almost messaged you to be like, Saturn, there's a tiny little ghost following me around, and I don't know how to make him go away. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
One of my favorite things that is so charming and irritating about Earthbound is the mushroom effect.
Yes.
Because you can get mushroomized, and that's so infuriating because you'll start attacking yourself, and you'll kill the fuck out of yourself. But the way you get rid of it is you go to a hospital, but you don't pay. They pay you. They pay you to heal you. And that's just so bizarre.
Yeah.
And it feels wrong as somebody who's played so many of those games.
Right. You're like, when are you going to come back and get what I owe you?
Right?
What's going on here?
But instead, I just get $50 and I get healed. And that's just so weird.
Yeah.
It makes you almost appreciate the horrible shit you just had to go through.
In the game, it's a hard game. I don't know if it's just me or not, but
No, it is difficult.
that game whooped my ass. There
Yeah.
were some moments where I was like, shit. And because the inventory is so limited,
Yeah.
it encouraged me to not stay well stocked.
Right.
Because I'd be going into a dungeon, I'd be like, I need to store stuff and rearrange my inventory, but
Yep.
God, I just don't want to spend 10 minutes doing that.
After I've gotten Jeff, I just stopped carrying healing items.
Mhm.
Like I'll carry the caramels
Mhm.
and anything that'll revive someone
Yeah.
or restore PP. Everything else is gone.
Yeah.
It's just key items.
Yeah, and then my problem is I don't know what items are and aren't key items.
Right.
So there's this thing where for a while I was carrying my bicycle around, and I was like, why can't I use this anywhere?
No,
Why doesn't it work?
It's done. After you get Paula, the bicycle is useless.
And then it was like, the bike only has one seat. Like, the game told me that, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, fuck you, game.
Yeah.
Why did you give me the bike?
Yeah,
It
the
only
bi-
worked for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, the bicycle is good for such a short period of time, and then you can finally use it again after you beat the final boss.
Yeah. After you
That-
beat the final boss and take Paula home.
Yeah, then you can use the
it.
bicycle again. That's your reward, is you get to use that item you got 70 game hours ago.
Right. some of the themes that I really enjoyed out of the game, it had this really sprawling theme of travel.
Mm-hmm.
There's travel throughout the whole game. In the travel segments, they want you to sit down and pay attention to them.
Yeah.
Because you're like riding on a Loch Ness monster or taking a boat or a submarine or this or that, whatever. A bus.
Yeah.
And you have to stop, and the game makes you stop and like sit there for these moments.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of segments of them, especially in like the last 2/3 of the way through.
Mm-hmm.
There's like several of them in a row.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, okay, what's the theme here with the travel thing? I get it. We're far from home.
Yes.
We're homesick.
Yeah.
But they really, really try to drive that point home.
Yeah. When I texted you to tell you that Ness's problem was that he was homesick, I didn't think you believed me at first, so I felt the need to then explain that, yes, that is a status ailment. I'm not being an asshole.
Yeah. I mean, just explaining some of the game is bizarre. I had another thing, but I don't know. I will say that I tried to start the game a bunch of times, and I've owned it since it came out on Wii U Virtual Console, and finally got through it.
Yeah.
And the last half goes so much faster.
Yes.
It's so much more enjoyable.
Yeah. The only part that bothers me about the last half is that brief period where Pooh leaves the party. Can be a little tough, but then once he comes back, it's pretty much all downhill from there.
Right, which I hate when games do that anyway, and especially like Final Fantasy games are bad about having segments where they're like, oh, you have to split your party now, and I'm like, I've spent 70 hours giving each person a specific defined role within this group, and now I have to fuck all that
and now
up.
you've taken my healer away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I think, and again, this may be another one of my unpopular opinions about the game, I think it would work better not as a JRPG.
Oh, yeah?
I think they could, because what the game wants to do is it wants to explore its sense of humor in the characters.
Yeah.
That's what the game is trying to do the whole time.
Yeah.
And it has this JRPG system attached to it.
Right.
And I think it would have worked so much better as maybe a more action RPG.
I can get that.
I think it would have, and certainly, yes, it would have taken away turn-based battles, and everyone is going to lose their mind whenever I mention, let's take away turn-based battles from Earthbound, but everyone calm down, listen. I think it would have opened the game up more to be able to explore those things more.
I can see that. I like it the way it is as far as that goes, but...
Although
I
also personally enjoy action RPGs, so I might have the whole time just been like, please be more action-y. You know,
but one thing I do like in Mother 3, the sequel, is you know how in Earthbound, if you're over level and the monsters start running away from you, you hit them from behind, it'll just instantly end the battle. In Mother 3, alternatively, there's a run button. If you're over leveled and you're running and you hit an enemy, you don't even start the battle; they just fly off the screen. You just, as you hit them, they just fly off, and it feels just great.
Yeah, just mechanically and menu-wise, the few minutes of Mother 3 I've played, it is substantially improved over Earthbound.
Yeah. They definitely learned a lot of the quality of life things. Yeah. The only complaint I would have is they did not take some of the modern enhancements that have been made to inventory systems.
Did they not?
No.
Because I'm seriously like 20 minutes in.
That is one thing that I will absolutely agree with you on is Earthbound's inventory was already a little dated by the time it came out.
Right.
Like Mother 1, I got it. That makes sense. By the time Mother 2 came out, even Dragon Quest was getting away from that. Yeah.
I did really also enjoy the fourth wall breaking segments. There is some big stuff at the end of the game where the game asks you twice for you to input your player name, not the character name, you, the guy playing the game.
Yep.
Because, and this is spoiler territory, the final segment of the game is you have to pray for Ness and everyone else to beat the final boss.
Yeah.
Which is I think I was trying to enjoy it, but I was also feeding a baby lunch at the time. So I was like, no, please don't throw that. Oh, look, I'm praying for Ness. But I feel like that's something that as a child, I would have never forgotten that.
Right, yeah.
I would have been like, oh, it's me?
Especially in 1995.
Oh, yeah.
That was such a huge shock.
Right.
I don't know anybody who saw it coming at that time.
Right. In even earlier segments where there's the sixth, I think it's the sixth secret location or whatever they're called, sanctuaries. Yes, where Nessa's thoughts are displayed.
On the Lumine Wall.
Yeah, like
you've seen the video online. Some dude hacked the ROM.
Proposed to his girlfriend.
Yeah, proposed to his girlfriend using Lumine Wall.
But it's in things with like Dungeon Man breaking the fourth wall and mentioning the game by name in the game. Like
the game itself is mentioned so many times throughout the game.
I guess I missed the other one.
Because like in the very first town, when you're in the arcade fighting the street gang, one of them asks you if you've beaten Earthbound yet. And if you say no, then he fights you. There's another person you can talk to, I want to say in Tucson or Threed, that will say that kids like you should be at home playing Earthbound. There's a building in Fourside that if you read the sign outside says that there's a meeting inside where they're trying to plan Earthbound 2. So yeah, it's just constantly throwing fourth wall.
Which again, like you said, for 1995, I mean, you see that kind of quirky stuff all the time now. I mean, we have games like Undertale dropping. Right. I mean,
Undertale was so heavily influenced by Earthbound.
Absolutely.
And he's admitted that. Hell, there's a statement from him in the Legends of Localization book.
Really?
From Toby Fox.
Well, there should be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of people are calling it a spiritual successor and all that stuff, and whatever. But
don't tell that to the Earthbound community.
Yeah.
They will get
the
so
themes
angry.
they explored in 1995 for a JRPG were phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
Even if the systems they attached to the game were
a little dated.
Yeah.
Like they weren't super, super dated yet, but they were a little dated.
I think it's less an issue that they were dated when it happened, but that they're dated
aged.
now. They've aged poorly.
Yeah.
So a lot of the systems attached to it. And again, in some ways, they're superior versions of those systems, but there's still systems that have been built upon so substantially since then that,
Yeah. I would love to see a modern remake of the game that keeps all the charm, but updates like the battle system, the menu system, the inventory, etc. Even if it just made it look like Dragon Quest VII.
Yeah.
Like the 3DS port of Dragon Quest VII.
I'd be okay with that.
If they just gave it that kind of touch-up.
I mean...
But I do want to keep the HP odometers.
Because they are fun.
Love those.
They're super fun. But as far as difficulty, the game, I don't know if it's just because it's my first playthrough or because I'm not great at JRPGs, but every single battle felt so high stakes.
Yeah.
Every battle. Everything was like, it's either going to do no damage or it's going to do 300 damage at all times, everywhere.
Well, what do you happen to remember what level you were when you finished?
Ness was either real early 70s or late 60s.
All right, so that's about average. So, yeah, I tend to heavily overlevel at the beginning of Earthbound.
Yeah.
Until I get through Foresight, I tend to be about 10, 15 levels over what I should be.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that it is not a challenge.
The final battle I did maybe 10, 15 times.
Yeah.
But I was also stuck in that save state hell where I saved right before the battle. I'm like, I need to go back and re-gear and blah, 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 but I don't know. And I just fought my way through it, and it was rough.
The last one of my friends who recently played through Earthbound for the first time, he admitted that he totally did not read the description of the Casey bat. And as soon as he got it...
I used it for like 3 hours. And I was like, oh my God, why can't I hit a damn thing? And I kept checking. I was like, is he homesick? No, he's not homesick. What's the problem?
So good.
Yeah, no, it doesn't fucking hit anything.
You've heard that poem before, right?
No.
Oh. It was a very famous American poem of the great Casey who struck out at the bat.
No, I don't
There
know
was a
this
Looney
poem.
Tune about it.
No.
This is going back like almost 100 years now.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
It's about like the greatest baseball player of all time, and then the poem is about him finally striking out.
Yeah.
And so you get a bat named the Casey bat, so you strike out.
Yeah, no, not.
It's a reference to American culture for once.
I went through like 2 dungeons with that stupid ass bat.
That's a mistake. The Magicant bat or there's a Gutsy bat. There's a rare drop from a Kraken.
Yeah. Saw that. Did not want to fight Krakens by myself as just Ness.
No.
So
no,
didn't
that's
do
a
that.
misprint in the book. They're not there.
What?
No, yeah, those Krakens in Magicant, they don't have them.
Are you serious?
You know, it's the bionic Krakens after
Later
you
on
go
in the
back in
game.
time. Yeah, that's what has them. That was a misprint in the original strategy guide.
I wonder how many kids tried to grind
I
that back.
have wasted so many months of my life trying to get the goddamn. I was I think 30 before somebody finally told me, "Hey, we ripped apart the game's code and that was wrong." I was so furious the day that I finally found out that it was wrong the whole fucking time.
Oh my god. It's like that summer I spent trying to unlock Luigi in Super Mario 64. Whole summer we tried to do that shit.
Yeah, it was never there. It was never in Magicant.
Yeah. As far as, and again, I don't want to feel like I'm complaining about the game nonstop, but I would say it's more along the lines of critique because I thoroughly enjoyed the game.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, my minor complaints about the system are completely overshadowed by the depth of the characters and the themes that are explored. Story-wise, my only real complaint is Pooh.
Yeah. He's just kind of shoehorned in there.
He's just kind of there.
Yeah.
They're like, I mean, and then at the end of the game, it's like, I gotta go home now.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
Yeah,
bye.
honestly, I get the same vibe from the first Mother game as well, because you've got Ninten and Lloyd and Anna, who are all somewhat built up, and then Teddy just shows up sometimes.
Yeah.
And he's just there.
I don't want to say, yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
But it's similar to what Mother 2 does. Whereas Mother 3 really develops every character, every minor character. Like, there's this monkey in Mother 3 that you play as for like an hour, and then he's gone forever. But, like, just hearing his name makes me, like, choke up a little, because it's just such an amazing... The writing in Mother 3 really just blows the other two out of the water.
And that's interesting because you see that early idea forming in Earthbound, because there's a lot of recurring characters that they keep bringing back, or they keep mentioning, or, oh, look, he's over here now, and he's like, hey, you remember when we did that thing that one time?
Yeah, like the Bubble Monkey shows up a few times.
Bubble Monkey's in a bunch of the game.
Yeah.
And then he's in the end credits with his bubble floating around. Like, what? Bubble Monkey?
Yeah.
I don't even... I barely remembered him until I had to go back to
Winters.
To Winters, and then I had to ride the Loch Ness Monster, which I'd totally forgotten about the whole segment. Because keep in mind, there's a year in between the first half of the game and the last half of the game for me. And I was like, what the hell is that monkey blowing a bubble? And I was like, oh yeah, Bubble Monkey.
Yeah.
He's got the gum. I get it. Ah, that's you.
It's also where Brick Road is introduced, who shows up later
Which,
as
what
Dungeon
the hell
Man.
is with that name, Brick Road? Any...
You'll read in the book about it, but no, there's no good explanation. That's just his name.
Brick Road?
Yep.
That sounds like the name of a wrestler from the 80s. Hulk Hogan versus Brick Road.
Yeah, Brick Road is in Winters, and he shows up again as Dungeon Man in the desert.
He's in there several times.
Yeah.
He's kind of developed, and it's exciting seeing him because he has this whole arc where you're like, oh, he finally got what he wants.
Yeah.
They made him into a dungeon.
Yeah.
Not made him one to run.
Right.
They turned his body
into a giant dungeon. Yeah.
And then you get him in your party for a second, and then he gets stuck in trees,
Yeah.
and then he just gives up. He's like,
this is my home now.
yeah, he's like, oh, I guess this is where my journey ends. And you're like,
Which is like 12 steps from where it started.
you're like stuck in a tree?
And the thing is, during those 12 steps, if you get into any battles, he beats the shit out of enemies.
Yep. Yep.
It's a good place to grind, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah.
And there's so many vignettes like that. Like that whole segment they added in there, it could have just been another dungeon.
Yeah.
The fact that he added to your party and you're like, whoa, look at this huge guy I got. And then you're like,
And he has a custom song that plays while he's in your party.
Yeah. And then you're like, all right, let's go over here. Oh, he's stuck in a tree. he's gonna live.
And we're done forever now.
Live there forever now. But I would say there's so much more of that in the last half of the game.
Yeah.
The first half, it's a lot of like talking to Apple Kid and running around and stuff. And it's
the
like
first half kind of just feels like a build-up. Like it's kind of introducing the world and how mechanics work. And then the last half deconstructs all that.
Absolutely.
Because like the first half, you're in a bunch of just like little tiny American-style towns, just one after the other. I mean, they're different
there's some
towns.
exciting parts, but it's
But for the most part, you're just kind of in towns. And then suddenly you're in a desert, and then you're at a beach resort, and then you're in the like an African-style desert out of nowhere, and in a jungle, and just And then suddenly you're miniature in a world of dinosaurs.
Which that was my favorite.
Yeah,
Whenever
I do love.
I was like,
Lost
I'm going to be
Underworld.
tiny this whole damn time. I guess so.
Yeah, after the first couple times that I played the game, I had taken like a 5-year gap before I played it again.
Mm-hmm.
I'd completely forgotten Lost Underworld existed. And so when I got back to that point in the game, I was like, this is so adorable. How did I forget this?
But there's also so many systems. It feels like every time you go to a new place, there's this new system that you have to learn. Like in the Lost Underworld, it's like now you're tiny and you have to track down these geysers to heal yourself.
Yeah.
And it's the only part of the game that has that.
Right.
And there's only like 5 geysers in the whole damn game.
But it still feels the need to explain it to you.
Yeah, it's a whole new system that they introduced that is adorable and fun and adds to the game.
Right.
You know? But again, my only real complaint story-wise is Pooh. I feel like he's tacked on there. He could have been fleshed out more. He effectively has no story.
Yeah.
They're like, Pooh, you have to go save the world. Oh, you did it.
Yeah. He is a prince. He is supposed to be involved. Go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even his world, like there is a dungeon there that you go to later. And honestly, I will say this: the moment whenever you're doing the trials as Pooh, that's some pretty gnarly shit.
It's some deep shit.
When you're doing the meditation,
and it's
like
ripping your limbs off.
I'm gonna rip your limbs off and rip your eyes out.
Yeah.
And now you're nothing. And I'm like, this is dark.
Yeah.
And you have to.
There are several dark moments in the game.
Oh yeah. And I knew that it wasn't going to end this way. So near the end of the game, you get turned into robots. Hilarious.
Right.
I don't know why they decided to make you robots for the last 30 minutes of the game, but they did.
Well, because your body couldn't go back in time. Only your soul could.
Right.
So let's stick your soul in a robot.
They invented the reason, too.
Yeah.
So when you invent the reason and the solution... But I loved it. No, again, it was another one of those things where it's like, okay, next area, what weird shit is going to happen? Are we going to be tiny? Or are we going to be underwater?
Robots.
Nope, you're robots.
Yep.
And
you put Ness's hat on it.
So you're robots, and then at the end of the game, because they tell you they're Dr. Andonuts and Donuts.
Dr. and Donuts.
And Donuts.
Yeah. Dr. and Donuts.
Just got the joke.
Yes.
Literally just now. And so he tells you, he's like, I don't know if you can come back or not. And when you die at the end of the battle, because you have like your crumpled little robot bodies, you're dead.
Yeah.
It waits a long time before your souls come out. And there was a moment where I was like, yeah, they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
They're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Are they going to be fine? Because there's...
It psychs you out a little.
Yeah, there's a moment where the game's been so weird and so upside down, and everything at that point has just disintegrated, and all structure has been flung to the wind for so long.
Your distaste with your annoying neighbor has turned into pure hatred for this soulless, heartless creature.
Yeah, so and it becomes this moment where for just a moment I was like, do they really die here for real?
Yeah.
But then, of course they don't,
right,
but you know.
Spoiler.
I do want to say that effectively Pokey being the big bad guy, because you're right, they do really make you hate him.
Yeah.
Like, and
there's a build up to hating him.
My favorite Pokey moment.
I've gotten to the point where I call him Porky full time now.
My favorite Pokey moment is when you have to go to this place and you go to the top of the tower and you get Paula back.
Right.
And he's like, oh, we'll take my helicopter to get there. And you walk out and Pokey just steals the fucking helicopter. And it's like, later.
Yeah.
And again, it's a moment where...
And then he says spankety, spankety, spankety.
Which makes no sense.
Which, for me and a couple friends in high school, that was our thing. You know, if we pissed somebody off, we'd just say spankety, spankety, spankety to reference Earthbound.
I want to talk... Everyone talks about the little Mr. Saturns everywhere. Yeah. And they are great, and I love them, and they have their own special...
That's where my name comes from.
Yeah, and they have their own special text, which we haven't even talked about. But yeah, they have their own special, like...
Font.
Text. Font, which is great. I love the Tindas so much more.
I do love the Tinda tribe.
They're
so
adorable. Cute. Like, the Saturns are just kind of like...
Weird.
Naked, hairy heads that scream all the time.
A friend of mine made me a plushie Mr. Saturn.
Oh, I didn't know that was made for you.
Yeah.
No.
He doesn't have legs yet. Someday he'll get legs.
One day.
Yeah.
Like, they just look like angry nutsacks, kind of, with noses.
Yeah. They look like blobfish.
They're still totes adorbs.
Yeah.
But the Tindas, I think
the Tindas are disgustingly adorable.
I think it's because they have these little tiny spindle arms, and they're so shy that you have to go get them a book.
To teach them how to talk to other people.
That they have to then read to each other so that they can be not shy.
Yes.
I love the Tindas.
And you have to go check out the book from the library. Because that's how games work now.
Well, because the guy's like, well, just go get the book from the library, and you're like, are you serious? I'm doing this now?
Yeah.
And there's no dungeon, there's no quest. You just go there and you're like, I'm gonna go to the library and get the book.
Yeah.
All right, I got the book.
Like, here's your book.
Now I'm gonna go to the place.
Well, actually, I think you have to get it from a person in the library because they had it.
No, it's just on the bookshelf.
You have to go get it from Apple Kid.
But Apple Kid doesn't have it. He returned it to the damn library.
To the library, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you go to Apple Kid and he's like, yeah, I don't got that. I took it back. It was a good book though. No, it wasn't Apple Kid.
Was it Orange Kid?
It was a kid. No, never mind. I'm thinking a different kid. Because there's a kid in the library with, for some reason, a hockey mask on.
Yeah.
What the hell is with the hockey mask?
There's several kids in Mother 1 that have a hockey mask on.
Well, they're terrifying.
I don't know why. Yeah.
Because it doesn't look like there's a face behind it.
No.
So, and you talk to him, he's like, oh, you looking for that book? I read it. I put it back on the shelf. It was good. And you're like, what is happening right now? I have to get a...
You're checking out a book from the library because it's 1995 in America.
And that was a moment where a little bit of the Japanese side of the game soaked through.
Right.
It bled through the other side of the paper for me because... There's, in Japan, there's like this, it's a thing where you're like, oh, you buy this little manual that tells you how to like talk to girls or whatever. And it's like a goofy pop culture kind of thing, and it's referenced in a lot of Japanese media.
Right.
But that was a moment where the whole time it just felt like that. It felt like you're going to get this special little manual to teach him to not be shy.
Right. But they are just disgustingly adorable little creatures.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's the one who is already not shy, and he's the muscular one. And he can totally pick up rocks.
But I feel like I'm just going to sit here and talk about all the different vignettes from the game.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that because that would just be boring for everyone. But yeah, I did very much enjoy the Tindas. The ending definitely had me right in the feels. There's a special, and I think that music, of course, affects me.
Yeah.
But I don't pay close enough attention to it to realize whenever I feel a certain way because it's the music or if I'm really feeling something. But at the end of the game, after you drop everyone off, and then you're just having to like walk back home. Yeah, there's something special about that, and they do use a specific track different from the Onet music. Yep. And
we underlaid it behind our synopsis of our Earthbound episode previously.
But I remember. I remember earlier today when I did it. Yeah. There's this special feeling that you get when you're like, okay, I'm going to go home now and talk to my mom. Yeah. After all this crazy shit has happened.
Yeah.
Like
after I went back in time to defeat weird fetus aliens.
Turned into a robot.
Yeah.
It brings everything back down to such a small scale so fast that it's dizzying.
It's weird. It's like I just returned my bicycle to the rental store. I'm going to go visit my mom. Hey, what did you do today, sweetie? I turned into a robot and fought a fetus alien in the past. Like, that sounds like something a kid would say, but they wouldn't mean it.
You can return the bike.
Oh, you can during your trip home.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, it doesn't, it just gives you, like, the dude's like, hey, thanks.
Dialogue.
Yeah, that's about it. It was like 10 years before I got the pun of the bike store.
There's a pun in the bike store?
The name of the bike store is Puncture, which sounds like puncture.
That's the lamest joke I've ever heard.
It was like 10 years before I got that shit. There's all kinds of little puns like that in the translation that I didn't get for like a decade.
Yeah. The ending, the final boss, it definitely has it has kind of a War of the Worlds feel, which the whole story kind of, I don't want to say the whole story, like the beginning and the very end has a very War of the Worlds kind of feel.
Meteorite and Return of the Meteorite on. Yeah. That's pretty much where that seems to be.
Basically. Yeah. But I don't know. What are your favorite moments from the game? As someone who's played it dozens of times that I can't even imagine.
One of my favorite things about the game that really stood out back in the day was the Grapefruit Falls. That's where you go to fight Master Belch the first time near Saturn Valley. The password to get in is to not touch any buttons for 3 minutes. 3 real minutes.
Is that what?
Yes. and somebody in Saturn Valley, one of the Mr. Saturns, will tell you that.
Yeah.
That you're just supposed to, he'll ask for the password, stay still for 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And so you go there, and the dude, before he lets you into the dungeon, asks you the password, and you just stand there. And as a kid, I thought, that can't be it.
Right.
And I kept trying to find something. And finally, I remember it was me and my mom, because we played through a lot of RPGs back then.
Right. And
we were like, the hell with it, let's try it. And we just stood there, and we were like, surely it's been 3 minutes. And we would try something else. Mm-hmm. And when we finally just, like, set it down and we're like, trying to like look through the book to see if there's something we missed, and she'd gotten distracted with something, and then just a text box pops up and it's like, okay, you can come in. and we're like, oh, okay. And then later in that dungeon you encounter another one of those creatures, and he's like, quick, what's the password? And if you leave the controller there forever, nothing happens. Then you push the A button and he says, why aren't you saying anything? And then he fights you. And
I don't remember that part at all.
And that was one of the first parts of the game that really hit me and made me realize just how ridiculous all of this is.
Absolutely.
And then beyond that, like trying to find that dude's contact lens in the desert, that's just weird. And if you do, he rewards you with giving you some of his stinky socks that you can throw at an enemy and paralyze it, because that's how our RPGs roll now.
Exactly. I like the Viper bag.
Yeah.
It's just a bag of snakes. You just throw snakes
throw
at
some
guys.
snakes at people. Yeah, the whole like Egypt-y area is just
it's bonkers.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
The whole back end of the game.
Basically, like you said, and you put it so perfectly, is that it sets it all up, and then the last half of the game is just it deconstructing everything.
Yeah.
To the point that by the end, you're like, what is even happening? My neighbor is in a weird robot suit.
He's
with
in a spider robot.
Alien from space,
Yes.
and we're robots in the past fighting this thing with a hat to kill it with.
In Smash Brothers Brawl on the Wii, Ness and Lucas team up to fight Porky in the spider mech.
Oh, really?
Yeah, during the
See,
story
now I got to
mode.
go play that,
Yeah.
and I don't like Smash Brothers.
The proper name for the character is Porky. It is
Mhm.
mistranslated as Pokey in the original. And all of the re-releases still call him Pokey, but all the supplemental materials for the re-releases have been calling him Porky. Smash Brothers has called him Porky.
Really?
So I think Nintendo is trying to veer towards that. Should, in some mystery universe, we ever see Mother 3,
Yeah.
I have a feeling he would be called Porky.
Really?
It makes more sense because all of the Porky-based things in Mother 3 all have, like, pig icons.
Mm-hmm.
So, pig, Porky.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it, and he looks physically kind of piggish,
Which was the theme they were going
which
for.
seems certainly intentional.
Yeah.
But as far as people wanting to play the game now, what would be your recommendation? I mean, obviously, Virtual Console.
Yeah, definitely Virtual Console, either Wii U or 3DS. It does have the, keep in mind, if you're looking for it, it has the premium Earthbound fee that Nintendo charges for just Earthbound.
Yeah.
All other Super NES games, $8, Earthbound, $10.
Of course.
Because it has the Earthbound tax.
Yeah. It's just like the Square Enix tax on Virtual Console, where
Right.
you got to pay extra because Square Enix made the game.
Yeah. Well, they don't do that anymore now. The Square Enix games cost the
Are
same.
they the same? Thank
Yeah.
God.
But not Earthbound. It still has the Earthbound tax.
Well, because it's a big deal. So
yeah,
they
it's
have to...
they dug deep into the vault to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, they had to move a bunch of shit out of the way, and it's just labor and everything. But between Wii U and 3DS Virtual Consoles, I don't which version, because I know you had some issues with the 3DS Virtual Console version.
There's just some color issues. It is muted more so than the Wii U version. But gameplay is fine. So if you're wanting to play it, those are fine. But the one thing that I can say is bring a ton of patience with you.
Yeah.
Because the front end of the game has some pacing issues.
And this is the thing that no one ever told me, is that there's a payoff.
Yeah.
The first half of the game, the last half is a payoff for the first half of
Right.
the game. And no one ever said that to me. So
Yeah.
every time I was playing, I was like, this game it's quirky and weird, I guess. You know, some goofy stuff.
You get from it what you put into it. If
Right.
you are willing to put the first half of the game in, the reward, I would say 4 side on is where the reward starts coming in.
Right.
Because that's where you really start to see the game's sense of humor, and you start to see just the weird, bizarre shit it throws at you.
Right.
I would say the first thing that really cemented in my mind what kind of game this would be was Moonside. Once I'd gotten to Moonside and dealt with that mindfuck, the rest of the game felt at home.
I remember, because you visit Saturn Valley multiple times, I remember making it to Saturn Valley and being like, this is the thing that everybody freaks out about, this character, and then, he's so amazing, look how great the little Mr. Saturns are.
No, Mr. Saturn is just weird.
And then, but then you visit them again in the back half of the game, and they play more of a role.
Right, yeah,
And
because then you find out that they are genius inventors.
Right, and then it's charming and funny and enjoyable, but the first time you're like, oh, that's weird. All right, well,
these are weird creatures that make fart noises.
So, and I imagine they're the same ROM, Wii U and 3DS. So basically, the recommendation is going to be 3DS because no one owns a Wii U.
Yeah. And it'll only play on the new 3DS. It will not play on a standard 3DS.
That's true.
And if you don't have either of those things, then I guess just emulate it because
why
it's
the hell not?
2016.
Yeah, it's Nintendo's fault.
Yeah.
For not... I don't know. It's their fault somehow.
Well, it should have been on the Wii Virtual Console, damn it.
Should have
There's
been.
no good excuse as to why. Though I am still, to this day, confused as to why it got rated T when it was re-released for Wii U and new 3DS.
Was it?
Yeah.
Weird.
Whereas the original was rated KA.
Yeah. I can't even imagine. I'm trying to think of, like... I mean, it's got some
Like,
creepy shit.
Yeah, there's some mildly dark things to it.
Yeah.
But nothing that would justify a T rating. Like maybe an E10.
The only thing I can think is the scene with Pooh when he's talking about, like, ripping your arms and legs off. Because it's described in a pretty visceral fashion. Right. That's the only scene I can even think that's explicit enough.
Earthbound Beginnings also ended up getting a T rating.
Really?
And it's got some darker points, but there's no violence. Yeah. There's no harsh language. It is probably more family friendly than Earthbound is, just because it's a little more simplistic.
Right.
But there's some parts that are just dark, a little unnerving. Mother 3, though, will definitely get a hard T rating if it ever comes out here. Maybe even a mild M.
Yeah, I heard there's some twisted shit in that one.
There's some twisted shit in that one. There's heavy cross-dressing. There's psychedelic mushrooms.
This just sounds better by the minute.
It's an excellent game. It takes... Really, it makes the first two pale in comparison as far as quirkiness and sense of humor and charm and the feels. It hits the feels way more than the first two do.
You can... I was on Etsy today. You can get Mother 3 on a cartridge for cheaper than you can get Earthbound on Virtual Console.
Yes.
It's $10.
Yes.
For a cartridge.
Yeah, it's $10 on Virtual Console for Earthbound.
Oh, yeah, because I was thinking, okay.
Yeah.
Whatever, the same price.
Right, yeah. So, and the thing is that these days it's easier to get a repro card of Mother 3 out.
Oh, yeah.
I can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it because...
You don't own one?
No, I don't own a repro.
Really?
No, I own an actual legit Mother 3 cart.
What? How do you play it on your Game Boy?
I don't. I play it on my Retron.
That's so weird. I'm disappointed in you now. I thought you would.
I played it on an emulator originally.
Yeah.
But I bought a cartridge back when it first came out. I never bought a repro because I don't want to give somebody money for the game that will not go to eTwee. It won't go to Tomato or the translation team. No. It just goes to whoever made that cartridge. Now, at $10, yeah, I can kind of justify that because they're getting paid for their parts and labor. That's about it. But when they were selling for $50, no, I couldn't bring myself to do it.
I'll tell you what. You give me $10, and then I'll buy Earthbound on my 3DS, and then you can feel better about yourself.
There you go. I already bought it on my Wii U and my 3DS and on my Super NES.
What's the word? Because I really don't know this, and this is just curiosity's sake. What's the word on Mother 4? Is it ever going to happen?
Never.
Never, ever.
Yeah, eTwee has said outright he doesn't have another game in him.
He's like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, he has no interest. He wanted to quit halfway through Mother 3.
I mean, surely the guy's moved. I mean, again, he's one of those guys. He's like, I'm going to do this for 5 years. Okay, now I'm never going to do it again ever. You know, that's just him.
And he had done the first Mother game was he wanted to show how a JRPG didn't have to be just like every other JRPG. Right. The second Mother game was he wanted to make a game for people who don't normally play games. Famously, his sister had told him that she didn't play the first Mother game because she doesn't play video games, and she's too old to play video games. And so the slogan for Mother 2, if I'm remembering it right, was something like adults, children, and even your sister. Because anyone could play Mother 2. Right. And then he was done. That was all he was doing. Then he just got some ideas for Mother 3, and he wanted to make something a little more emotional. And then the 64 disc drive failed. So he was like, I'm done. Right. And then they were like, no, make it on the 64. You already have so much work. And he's like, okay. And then the 64 got discontinued, and he wasn't done. And he was like, all right, I'm done. And they're like, no, you can save it.
Now they're going to make him put Mother 4 on the Wii U. and come March, the Switch is going to come out, and he's going to be like, I'm done. Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah, so eventually it did get made on the GBA, and but he did state during the development of it that he has exhausted all of his ideas for the franchise. He has nothing else in his head for Mother.
Mhm.
There is no more.
Mhm.
If other people want to make something similar, he'll be happy to play it and enjoy it
Right.
and talk about how amazing it is, but it's not him.
Thus, we have Undertale.
Yeah, and actually he has spoken about Undertale, and he has said that it is very charming and he enjoys it.
Really?
So, if you're looking for another game, go play Undertale. It's really
there you
good.
go. Why not?
But if you're an Earthbound fan, I didn't just say that, and don't credit me for that.
Yeah, Saturn. What's your username on all of the Earthbound forums again?
No, actually, the thing is, I really enjoy Undertale. I really enjoyed playing through it. And I think
Right.
we talked about it on this show.
I started it, didn't finish it. It
Because the flower terrified you.
it's too far into the scary game. Let me
Yeah.
put it to you this way: if I played Earthbound 10 years ago,
Mhm.
it genuinely there would have been moments that scared me to the point that I would have stopped playing. I'm a huge chicken about
Yeah.
that stuff.
Mother 3 has some darker moments, but it doesn't have any moments that are as creepy as Mother 2.
Mother, Earthbound is also different because you feel powerful,
Right.
Undertale is very much a game where
Yeah.
you don't,
Yeah, by design.
you have no agency
No.
within the world at all, and
Yeah.
that's also a thing that I find terrifying.
Right.
So I think that's why Undertale got to me to the point that it did.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed Undertale. There is some real animosity from the Earthbound community to Undertale.
Which makes no sense
well,
to me.
what it was early on, because the creator of Undertale, he's always been a big Earthbound fan. He had
Yeah.
made Earthbound ROM hacks before he made
Yeah.
Undertale, and that's how he got his teeth wet when
Yeah.
it comes to making games.
Teeth wet?
Is that a thing?
That's not a
Where he sharpened his teeth. That's where I was looking.
cut.
Where he got his feet wet.
Cut his
Or cut his teeth.
teeth. Yeah,
Those are the two
All right.
phrases
It's
that I merged
where he
together there.
cut his teeth.
God damn it. What is wrong with me?
That's-
Anyway, yeah.
that would have been in the Mr. Saturn font.
Followed by a fart noise and Zoom and then Dakota. But no, so that was where he got his start.
Yeah.
And then so there was some overlap there.
Mm.
And a lot of early Undertale fans had heard that it was influenced by Earthbound.
Earthboundy.
Yeah, and so they went into Earthbound saying, "Oh, this must be a thing like Undertale. We
Mhm.
must enjoy this."
Right.
But they overwhelmed all the Earthbound communities with Undertale stuff,
Yeah.
and wouldn't talk about any of the Earthbound stuff, which somewhat infuriated all the existing Earthbound fans.
I do
So,
think Undertale will age better.
we'll see.
Because I feel like the systems it has are very much its own.
Yeah,
you
and I
know?
get that. The one thing I'll say is I think that.
I mean, I'm not going to
Some-
say it's going to age more belovedly.
Right.
you know,
My
but-
thing is, I think some of the pixel art in it
Mhm.
is of an inconsistent design that I
Okay.
think as we refine how our faux retro art should look,
Mhm.
it may look amateurish in retrospect.
might look like a Flash game in 5 years.
Right. That's my
Okay.
fear.
Which I didn't play far enough to
Right.
know. But also another thing for Undertale for me is it's not on a console, and
Yeah.
I don't sit in front of a computer enough
Yeah.
to play games.
As much as I would love to see it on a console, I can understand why it probably won't, just because of some of the interface screw things. It
Oh
does
yeah, I
in
mean
the
it
end.
would have to be like a remaster or whatever. It would.
Well, no, it would just have to be completely different.
Really?
Some of the endings.
Oh yeah, because you were telling me about the
Yeah,
endings,
there's-
and I don't even know how those would work.
Yeah, it just wouldn't. So anyway.
Anyway, that's Earthbound. I feel like this episode was a little bit all over the place and kind
Yeah.
of eclectic, but that's
That's kinda how Earthbound is.
That's how Earthbound is. So
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Yeah. It's a game.
We had
You-
wacky phrases. We talked about weird stuff.
You
It
get a
was
baseball
just-
bat and you hit aliens.
There you go. Why not?
Boom.
Just get some Earthbound and get your teeth wet.
God damn it. That one's not going to die for a little while, is it?
No, that was a good one. Anyway, thank you for listening to this episode. You can go to our website, retrowarriors.net. You can also find us on Patreon at patreon.com/retrowarriors, where we would very much appreciate you to give us your money, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Where we very well may put up our old retro Earthbound episode.
Yep, totally going to do that. That'd be very fun for everybody. So maybe
Yeah.
I'll put that up today or tomorrow, and then they can hear the difference between that and 4 years
then
later.
they can point out to me any of the things where I accidentally contradicted myself between the two episodes.
My fear is, because I remember that being a very good episode, my fear is that this is going to be a worse episode, and I'm going to release that, and people listen to that, and then they'll listen to this one and be like, no, that's terrible.
Like,
So-
you guys got shit over the years.
But then Saturn said, get his teeth wet, so that ridiculous.
God damn it.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Please go check us out on the things in the
stuff.
Facebooks, and
Yeah.
do get in touch with us through Facebook, facebook.com/retrowarriors.
Yeah.
And that's it. We're done. That's Earthbound. No one ever has to talk about it ever again because we covered all
everything.
of it.
That is the
whole
entire
thing. So Saturn's going to be done with all of his Earthbound stuff.
I'm just going to put it all on
Just
eBay.
sell it.
Just going to put it all right in a fireplace.
Just burn it. I'm going to burn my Wii U because it's a digital game, so I don't know what to do with it. Anyway, we'll be back next week with some more stuff and some things.
Hey.
And as always, let us cling
Let us
together.
cling together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Classic Corner. As always, I'm your host, Andrew, and I just wanted to go ahead and just first off say, for anyone that did not listen to the first episode, this is going to be a show done by me, by myself, basically just talking about a game that I have played for the first time just now recently, basically, in the past probably, I don't know, a couple days. So it's just going to be me talking about a game that I've never played before and kind of giving my first time playing opinion about the game, while also giving a little bit of brief history about it as well. Anyway, so this week the topic is Ice Climbers. I have never played Ice Climber before, and thank God. Anyway, so I guess I'll go ahead and first just go over just a little bit of history like I did in the past episode or in the last episode with Mega Man 2. Ice Climbers is a platformer that was developed by Nintendo for the Famicom in Japan and the NES for North America. It was released in 1985 for both systems. The Famicom, I believe, was in January, and then the North American release happened way later in the year. So basically the game follows two characters, Popo and Nana, Nene, Nunu, Nana or Nana, I don't know. Anyway, who are the ice climbers. Basically, you're just going to be climbing up this mountain that is covered in ice while avoiding different monsters or birds or creatures and trying to get to the top. So, basically the story, as far as I could follow it, follows Popo and Nana or Nene, as they try to follow a condor who has stolen their vegetables and taken them up a mountain. So basically you have to climb this mountain trying to avoid any snowmen, bears, yeti, abominable snowmen thingies, who are also named the Topi. And in the Japanese version, they're actually not snowmen at all, or yetis at all, they're actually seals. But of course America had to throw a huge hissy fit because we can't club seals for some reason, I don't know why. Anyway, you also have to avoid tiny condors and icicles that are falling from above you. So basically you're trying to get your crops back from a bird who has stolen them and brought them up a mountain. So the game has the most uninteresting story that you could possibly have. I want to know where they're growing these crops. Do they have I would assume they would need some sort of greenhouse, and in that case, who opened the greenhouse and let this giant condor in there? Condors have a pretty large wingspan. I did not look that information up. Would have been helpful maybe to kind of drive my point home. Anyway, also the crops have eyes, which leads me to believe that they're sentient in some way. Maybe a better story, or maybe if they had actually explained the story, would have been that, maybe the condor is some sort of wizard that can change shapes or have animal forms, and he turned all the other villagers into crops, and now you have to save your villager friends and collect them and bring them back to the local shaman and have them turn them back into real people. Back to the game, I guess. So the music is the same throughout the entire game. So the whole game is just basically the same song until you get to the bonus stage, which the bonus stage is the intro music. I mean, that's it. It's just the intro music. And I played through, I would say, 7 or 8 stages before I just completely gave up. And it's the same. It's the same. And you've listened to a little bit in the background, and so that way you don't kill yourself from just listening to the same song over and over and over again, I put on some smooth jazz. Just kidding. I'm gonna put on some Harvest Moon Back to Nature because I like that game and the music is amazing in it. So, apologize if you wanted to listen to the same song for 5 or 10 minutes. For all the other people, you're welcome. All right, so I'll go ahead and get into the nitty gritty what I thought about the game. So, if you couldn't tell already, I did not like this game at all. There was a point when I was playing it where I was like, "Oh, this game could be a little bit fun," and then I realized that it's just the same thing over and over again, and it's not really fun for me to play this game. Anyway, and really the game is more frustrating and not in like the endearing, cool way like Ninja Gaiden is, or even some parts of Mega Man. But the game is hard-ish once you get kind of into the 6th or 7th level. But the game's mostly not hard because of like the normal ways where it's challenging to get up the mountain or anything like that. It's more just frustrating to get there. Making the holes above you, there's not really a good way to diagonally jump into the holes. You basically have to jump straight up and then hope that when you're pressing right or left, it's actually going to go in that area. It's just very difficult to jump at an angle for the most part. And there were a few times that the abominable snowman, bear, yeti thingies would touch me, well, actually would kill me before they even touched me, which I didn't really understand that part. And the birds that are flying in the sky are more just annoying than they are difficult or challenging to avoid. They're just there, and you have no idea where they're going to go. And they're pretty slow, so it's kind of irritating that you can't really figure out what's going to happen with those things. Basically, that's it. You climb up a mountain, try to get past the bonus stage, collecting all your little vegetable friends, and then you go up to the top of the mountain and try to fight the condor before continuing through the game, where the only thing that really changes is basically the platform situations where you jump on clouds, which, by the way, you jump on clouds. Forgot to mention that earlier. Really kind of... I would say that doesn't make sense, but none of this game really does, so I guess I can't really argue that one. I would say the graphics are alright for the time period. You know, good graphics. The sprites are cool looking, I think. I do like the way the sprites look. There's something positive. But really, there's no other scenery. There's no trees, no plant life other than the vegetables that you're trying to save or collect or find. And it's pretty bland. I mean, there's some color differences, but not really enough to where I would like what I'm seeing. It's just an uninteresting frozen wasteland that, you know, I don't understand why they're growing crops in this area or why they, you know, don't have any other form of food. I would assume also that the Inuits of this time period would have some sort of missile weapon where they could, you know, shoot the bird down. That would make sense. Really, altogether, I'm not sure why Nintendo calls this a classic game other than the fact that it's a first-party title for the Famicom and NES. Bottom line, I didn't really like this game. If you're a diehard Ice Climber fan, I tip my hat off to you for sticking with that game and, you know, bringing some loyalty. But this game brought me literally no joy. All this game brought me was confusion and aggravation as I tried to figure out what I'm doing. Why am I climbing this mountain trying to find food? Do I not have any more food down below? Is there no sort of animals that I have collected to harvest food from? Why not just grow more? I mean, I do understand that in this world it does take a while to grow crops, but also when you can climb on clouds, I feel like there are some other things that are missing that we could be doing. I will go ahead and mention the game has been released on many platforms that you can find it, including the kick-ass NES Classic. It also was released on, as I said, the Famicom, the original NES, the Game Boy Advance, the Wii, 3DS, and Wii U Virtual Consoles. There was also an arcade version released as well, where a lot of people may know Ice Climbers from if you didn't actually play the game when it was on the original NES. You'd know them from Smash Brothers for the GameCube, was where I believe they first came out or they first showed up. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening. If you like the show, let us know. If you don't like the show and you want me to stop doing it, that's cool too. And also, if you have suggestions for games that you think that I should play or that you'd like me to kind of give my first thoughts on if I've never played it before, please let Retro Warriors know, and I'm pretty sure they can get that information over for me and I can set that up. Yeah, thanks very much. You can let us know on the Facebook, or you can also comment that on the Patreon page as well if you want to give those 2 cents there. But once again, I want to thank everyone that has donated to the Patreon. This is something for you, so if you feel like it can be improved in any way, I definitely want to make it a better listening experience for you. Anyway, thanks very much for listening again, and let us cling together.